Hello there, how are you? We're in a serious problem. I'm not the only one in Australia that has blown the whistle on the blatant lies and the lack of integrity that's going on in both state and federal governments. As a matter of fact, our cry here in Australia is just the same as it is in all of the Western countries. Recently, as you would all know, there are terrible things happening and countries are being sent bankrupt. And for example, when we talk about countries going down, we're talking about Portugal and Spain, we're talking about Italy, we're talking about Ireland, we're talking about Greece, Egypt and so on. And of course 6 years ago, Argentina was sent bankrupt. But before all this happens, realise there's a couple of things that always happened in their modus operandi. We're talking about the ruling elite, the banking cartel. Now you mightn't think that I'm speaking the truth about this, but whatever I put up on this report, you can double check on the internet yourself. And as a matter of fact, I ask people to do your own independent report, because what you are getting from the media is a bunch of lies. You are getting paid propaganda. You don't think so? You are. And because of that, you're kept in the dark as to really what is happening. Now these things that have to happen first in their modus operandi is they first of all coerce the state and the federal government to sell off all of the public assets. Mind you, a government does not have that mandate to do that. But they're going behind the constitutional rights and they are coercing the governments to sell off everything. We're talking communications, we're talking water, we're talking sewerage, we're talking railway lines, we're talking ports. Everything is getting sold off so that the government actually owns nothing. And then everything is bought up, snapped up by some very wealthy, they print the money, some very wealthy organisations from overseas. They now own, for example, the electricity that we pay here in Queensland, and I think it's, I won't mention the name, but one of them, it is actually owned by Boral, by Standard Oil, and that is owned by Rockefeller. So every time you pay your electricity account, it's going into the pocket of a Rockefeller family. Why is that? Because the government has been duped into believing that they need to sell off the assets. Why? Well, first of all, they gave them so-called stimulus money. What was that for? That was to get them into debt. And then, oh, well, you better sell off your assets to pay off some of your debts. This is farcical. And the people that make the money, print the money, and then give it to the government plus an interest is the banking cartel. Now, behind the scenes, you have a push to get global control of every country. That's right. A one world government, the new world order, a global control of every government. This is the modus operandi that they are doing to achieve that goal. And it will come through the door of what you will believe to be reputable people. The United Nations, World Health Organizations, level trading field. Hello, World Trade? They are sending our farmers broke. They are sending our industries broke. Now, at the last elections, GILLARD made a promise that there was not going to be a carbon tax. Now, what do we need a carbon tax for? In this report, I'm going to show you that carbon dioxide is the most essential, I repeat that, the most essential component to keep plant life living. That's right. Now, I don't know how many are watching this particular report that are in my age group, but if you go back to school, we were taught about photosynthesis and what it was needed. And we're talking about carbon dioxide is needed in the process of photosynthesis to convert light energy into chemical energy through a living plant. That's what photosynthesis is all about. And if you take away the carbon dioxide, then you won't have healthy plant life. And you will see in this report that carbon dioxide never goes above 0.038%. That's right. Carbon dioxide never goes above 0.038%. There's thousands of scientists who will bear this out. They're the honest ones, if you can find some honest ones, that are not getting paid off by Rockefeller. You know, if you owned trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars and you weren't happy with that, you wanted to control every human being on this earth, what would you do? You got trillions and trillions and money's no object. What would you do? Well, I'll tell you what you would do, and that is what they are doing. First of all, make people sick, and then own and control the pharmaceutical companies and coerce you into being sicker, not better, by your drugs. And then you would, to control the people, make sure that you can control the media. And that's what they've done. They're brought up and they control every media. What you're getting is just paid propaganda. So if you've got trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, and you can do all this, you might say, well, what would they need to do that for? They got all the money. Yes, they got all the money, but you know, psychopathic killers, psychopathic people are not happy until they've got total control. Now, somehow or other, they've got into our education system in Australia. They've got into the pockets of all of our governments, both state and federal. And we know that they, for their global control, their global government, the New World Order, they have to have money to fund it. They've got to have money to fund the administration, to fund the Secret Service, to fund the army. So where are they going to get their money from? Think about it. That can only come by their cooked up box of lies of ETS. That's right, ETS. We don't need to have a carbon tax. Not at all. They are sending your university people false reports paid for by Rockefeller. It's very easy to do this, you know. If you own the universities and you have a funding institute and you fund the bright scholars that come out of schools, very easy to control what kind of reports they give you. And that's what they've done. You are getting false reports to prop up that we have a carbon problem and we've got to put a price on carbon. I'm sorry. That is the greatest dupe, the greatest bag of lies that's ever hit our people. And I, for one, I'm going to blow the whistle on this as much as I can, and I hope you do as well. Now, in this report, I'm going to use a couple of clips, some snippets out of Alan Jones, a very good, honest, top radio man out of Sydney. And you'll see all about him on this film clip. And he is speaking with Julia Gillard, our Prime Minister. It's about the 2nd of March this year, 2011. He's talking to Julia Gillard when he asked the question, why did you make a promise that we would not get carbon tax, ETS, and now you want to bring it on? Listen to this report with me, and I tell you what, when you hear this report, you're going to be very angry and very upset.
The Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, is in the studio in Canberra. Prime Minister, good morning.
Good morning, Alan.
Do you understand that there is white-hot anger out there, and there was yesterday, and there will continue to be, because 5 days before the August 21 poll, you said there will be no carbon tax under the government I lead. I mean, this is what you've said.
There will be no carbon tax under the government I lead.
And then, in case there was any doubt, you repeated the line in the Australian newspaper the day before the election. You said, I rule out a carbon tax.
Well, Alan, let me answer that. In the last election campaign, I talked consistently about how climate change was real. It was caused by human activity.
Give the certainty to the business community, and I've said this over and over again, by saying there'll be no carbon tax, which you said during the election. Do you accept the fact that you've stolen an election with a false promise?
Oh, Alan, what a load of nonsense.
I told you in a discussion we had here that emissions trading scheme proposal was going to bury Kevin Rudd and your government. I told you that off air, and I said you'd be unwise off air to be part of that debate. I told you that, and the emissions trading scheme buried Kevin Rudd, and this will bury you.
Well, Alan, I'm not responsible for the statements you make off air. I'm responsible for the statements I make on air and off air.
All of that we could accept. All of that.
Well, all of that's true,
Alan. Whoa. If it's true, why then, before the election, listen, why did you say this?
There will be no carbon tax under the government I lead.
Why did you say that?
in the meantime, that is effectively like a tax, and I just wanted to be straightforward about it.
But Wayne Swan, your deputy, I just sort of so to understand, Wayne Swan said this, your deputy.
Now, it's not possible that we're bringing a carbon tax. That is an hysterically inaccurate claim being made by the coalition.
What's your response to that?
Now, I think you've just heard the greatest blatant pair of liars that's ever taken control of our country. Now, I don't care whether you're Labor or Liberal or Green or whatever, but if we can't have people with integrity and honesty looking after our country, then they will fall and be duped into the New World Order, the United Nations, and that's happening. Do you realise that these people are puppets? They are caretakers. That's right. They are caretakers looking after this country, positioning it and manoeuvring it into a situation where the United Nations New World Order will be able to take it over. The United Nations New World Order realise, of course, that they cannot take control of all the people when they have to go through elected politicians. But if the elected politicians have been dumbed down by corporations, that's right, corporations, you will find in my previous report, and I've published the registered numbers, our federal government is a corporation. It is no longer a government for the people, by the people. Every state government and right down the line to the judiciary, the police force, they're all now corporations with a registered ABN number. That means you're dealing with corporations. That also means that when they sell off your railway lines and all of your assets, they are also under the control of corporations. That makes it easy for these New World Order global controllers to come in, and if they've got a corporation that's not behaving itself with the wrong kind of board, kick the board out and put some new people in. That's where we are. So these people are doing what they're told to do. They realise that they're told lies. They realise that this is lowest of all despicable integrity, but they've got a job to do. Not for you and me. They've got a job to get everything ready for the United Nations takeover, which is just about to happen. Now, I'm going to put up on the screen what the ETS, how much carbon dioxide there is in the atmosphere, and you can do your own check to make sure that you realise that I'm not telling fibs here, I'm not telling lies, I'm showing you the truth. Now, on your screen now, you can see a complete list of what there is in our atmosphere. And as you follow through on that list, you will see that carbon dioxide makes up a 0.038%. Never any more, never any greater level than that. You know why? Because if there was more than that, it is absorbed by the oceans and it's absorbed by the plant life in the world. Now, the graph that you can see on your screen is from Wikipedia, and you can see that that tiny weeny little slit down the bottom there with an arrow pointing to it shows you how very little CO2 there is in our atmosphere. As a matter of fact, it is such a low level, 0.038%, that you could hardly measure it, and as I said before, it doesn't get any higher, it doesn't get any greater. The more there is, the more the trees will absorb it. You see, photosynthesis is essential for healthy plant life, and that is taking place by the use of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide in photosynthesis converts the light energy into chemical energy using living organisms. And if you didn't have this happening in your world, you wouldn't have oxygen to breathe, because these plants produce oxygen in this process. Now go into the internet and get into Google and check this out. If you think that the scientific reports that you are getting, and which is handed down to the government, if you think they're true, they're not. They're a fraud. It's a hoax. It is paid propaganda. And you will see that there's 30,000 qualified scientists that are suing Al Gore for this fraud and the lies. Now, you might think I'm exaggerating when I say that these people that we've elected into government are no more than caretakers. Yes, they're caretakers for the United Nations and the International Crime Syndicate, the International Banking Cartel. Under the cover of the IMF, they are ready to take control over every country. If you go in and do your own research on this, you will find well over 500,000 websites that are blowing the whistle on them. And they will crash the dollar. They're just about to crash the dollar everywhere and send everybody bankrupt, including this country, Australia. In the affirmative in Australia, so that's why they're turning everything into a corporation. When they turn it into a corporation, they can control it because, as I said before, if the board of directors doesn't play ball, and if your CEO doesn't play ball, kick them out and put somebody in there that does what you want to be done. Now we've got these lying people that are puppets, as I said, they're caretakers for the United Nations, for the New World Order, for the International Crime Syndicate, the banking cartel. They're doing as they're told. And another thing, we were told that the fluoride was needed, it was good for your teeth. That's a lie, another lie. We had a referendum in Queensland, if you remember, and the people said no, definitely not. We do not want fluoride in the water. And you know something? Being in the aluminium industry and being a throw-out after manufacturing fertiliser, it's a poison, it's an S7 poison. And this poison is now dipped into the water that you drink, and guess where it comes from? I believe most of it's been imported from Belgium, and guess what? Belgium won't use it. Belgium has banned fluoride. So what are they doing with it? Selling it to us in Australia to drink this poison, which causes unbelievable trouble with hip replacements, knee replacements, thyroid, bone cancer, osteoporosis, and the works. And you know what? They know about it. And are they doing anything about it? No, because these liars are under a treaty. That's right. These governments that we've got, elected people, have signed us away. They have signed treaties with alien foreign powers. The worst thing about this is that the powers that they've signed a treaty with, such as the New World or the United Nations, that's not a sovereign country that they've signed a treaty with. It's nobody. It's non-elected nobodies. And they've signed treaties with them. And it's those treaties that have to be repealed. It's those treaties that we'd have to throw out. We have Monsanto chemicals coming into this country which has and is killing our marine life and our barrier reef. The unbelievable other thing that we've got, and they said it was good, it was safe, and another lie, is GM, genetically modified fruit and veggies and beans and cotton. This genetically modified stuff is what is also killing our bees. Would you believe some of the genetically modified stuff has an inbuilt pesticide in it? And they want to know what happens to the bees. We've hardly got any bees left in Australia. They're gone in the rest of the world. And the other thing that's killing the bees is chemtrails and HARP. Now, if you put this in front of the politicians, they'll say that you're cuckoo and that you're talking about a conspiracy. I tell you what, I've put up a lot of reports on this, including the patent numbers of the chemtrails and the patent numbers of the HARP, H-A-A-R-P, and that is what is causing the death of our ecosystem. Now I'll have to leave it at here, and you can do some more research. If you look at the text below this video report, there'll be some more details for you, and I'll put some more on the screen as you're watching it. And I just hope and pray that you will send this message out. We've had enough of being governed by liars. Now before I close, I'm going to just show you this and have a look at what these liars are not telling us. You're looking at a detention camp. It is a detention camp. I took a member of Parliament from Queensland, Dr. Alexander Douglas, there with me. We inspected this site, and I asked this politician to go and investigate and find out who built it. You know, 3 weeks later, he has not been able to get any answers from any politicians, from any government department, from any bureaucracy. He does not know and cannot find out who put up the money, who is the minister or department that is behind it. And there is a good example of FEMA out of America coming into this country under the United Nations, under the treaties with the UN, doing things, building things that we did not give anybody the authority to do. So look at it, get into it, and try and find out who is behind these detention camps.